The 2 seeds are Michigan State in the South, St. John's in the West, Alabama in the East, and then Tennessee in the Midwest. The tournament gets underway with the first 4, 2 games coming up tomorrow. St. Francis of Pennsylvania against Alabama State and North Carolina against San Diego State. Then on Wednesday, Mount St. Mary's against American and Xavier against Texas. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
Welcome to Staples.
I hear Staples prints it all for any business.
You bet, and we'll beat any print quote.
So if I had a pizza place...
Staples can print signs, menus, pizza boxes.
A landscaping business?
Oh, we can print yard signs, t-shirts, brochures.
How about a pizza/landscaping business? I'll call it Dough and Mo.
I like it.
Right now at Staples, get up to $250 off your print purchase. Ends 4/5 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for offer details. Price match guarantee valid in store and staples.com/print. Visit staples.com/price match for details.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
Or you could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
How many SportsGrid listeners does it take to change a light bulb?
It takes 2.
One to change the light bulb, and one to see if our mobile app can provide the same amount of light. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Off and running in today's edition of Football Full Circle right here on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Sirius Channel 159, Lisi and Wetzel taking you around the NFL for the next hour. The calm before the storm. The NFL Draft does take place next month, April 24th and 25th. Scotty, some news over the weekend. Huge signings, right? We saw Cincinnati sign Jamar Chase and T. Higgins per reports. A dynamic deal making Jamar Chase the highest paid offensive non-quarterback in the NFL. And then just about 5 hours ago, we saw the Houston Texans sign former LSU standout Derek Stingley Jr. to a 3-year, $90 million deal over the next 3 seasons for the Houston Texans. Payrolls and salaries are going through the roof, Scotty, in the NFL.
It's crazy, Joe. It's no longer just the quarterback, right? I mean, it really is. I will say, though, kudos to the Bengals for one aspect. And then, of course, they're dopes on the other. Kudos because they got it done. Ultimately, they got it done. And I really didn't think they would get both those guys. I really didn't. I thought they'd lose both, to tell you the truth. If there was a bet in Vegas on FanDuel, how many returned, I would have put 0, right? So ultimately, they got it done. And I'm not big on giving guys a contract extension when you don't have to. But the salaries are only going up. So if you have 2 proven players, especially Jamar Chase, you knew that last year, Joe. You knew that even 2 years ago. I mean, they cost themselves how many millions of dollars? Because there's no doubt he would have signed for less if they would have done that last year or even 2 years ago. So, but ultimately, for the Bungles, as we like to call them, they got it done, and now they're a viable force in the AFC.
Yeah, I agree. Now, a lot of pressure now on Zach Taylor. There's no excuses anymore, right? You have 2 of the highest paid wide receivers. You have one of the highest paid quarterbacks. You can't afford another 0-2 start to just limp to the playoffs or potentially a 9-8 record and not challenge for an AFC championship. So we'll see how it plays out. They also have an above-average running back, a young running back coming off a minor injury at the end of the year in terms of Chase Brown. The defense is the main concern. What do they do? Hendrickson wants out of that lineup. But again, I think they made the right move, Scott, because I've said this time and time again. It's not like the defense, and I understand Hendrickson put up dynamic numbers, but it's not like that defense, took over games, was an above-average unit, and you said you needed Hendrickson in that lineup. I understand he led the league in sacks, 17.5, but you could only go up. They were one of the worst defensive units in the league. If you could make up that talent with, say, better than average players, meaning cheaper players, Isn't that the route to go as long as the offense solidified and you know that Burrow has all the answers and has his guys at the wideout position?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I like to be the fly in the wall when he found out that Chase was getting $40 million and the other guy was getting $115 million, right? I mean, does that leave the cupboard dry? Is he going to be gone now? Did they make the choice? See, I would have taken Hendrickson over T. Higgins. If you lose Hendrickson, I would have done it. I'll go find another T. Higgins in the draft. You just have to somehow replace these guys. He's good, but he's not Jamar Chase and he's not Trey Hendrickson. I wouldn't think anyway. So, if they don't replace him, Joe, then it's right back to being square one. And now all of a sudden they're in a division that's not that bad anymore. You looked at it last year and you thought it was going to be a beast, but the Browns are awful, obviously, right? I think Pittsburgh is coming way back to the pack. They don't have a quarterback. And you got the Ravens, who are the Ravens. You're always going to have some team, but that's certainly a winnable division for them.
Right. I think personally they did the move to appease Burrow more than anything else. Burrow was lobbying for both of those guys. Chase and Higgins do have the same agent, so if you're going to sign one, potentially you sign both and just get it done. And I understand what you're saying about Hendrickson, but again, you have a player now that's a little bit disgruntled. Yes, he led the league in terms of sacks, but it didn't change the wins and losses for your ball club, right? I understand the defense was the weak link, but you see, I take the different approach. I think I can maybe plug and play some guys on the defensive side of the ball to get us maybe in the top 18, top 15 from that aspect, as opposed to just say, let's get in another T. Higgins that already has the quarterback to wide receiver relationship down with Joe Burrow, and he's one of his guys. I do want to ask you this, because I do believe in Cincinnati this year. I think they can start fast, especially now that both of these players are signed. But on the flip side, I mentioned Stingley for Houston. This is a team that slightly regressed. What's the big picture for Houston overall? Because they fire Bobby Slowick. They get rid of Tunsil. That was one of the mainstays of that offensive line. What is DeMeco Ryans looking at in terms of this team big picture? All defense and hoping that the offense comes around this season?
I don't know. Their offensive line wasn't great last year, and they got rid of their best offensive lineman, even though he may have had some issues. There's got to be something behind the scenes with that. Right. There always is with Tunsil anyway, right? So, but they got to refortify that offensive line for sure. So, it's only a couple more years left before you got to have C.J. Stroud, aching for a new contract as well. So, what do they got? 1, maybe 2 years left before they can pay guys like they paid yesterday, $30 million for a defensive back. Wow, Joe, that's the salaries are just, like I said, it's not just a quarterback anymore. It's just $30 million. I mean, you can't spread that out over. See, I'm the guy that says, all right, I'm going to give a guy $20 million, and then I'm going to take that extra 10 and go get other really decent players. You can build a team around decent players, especially on defense. Because I thought that was going to be the offensive team. I thought it was going to be C.J. Stroud's team, but apparently not the case.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you and I didn't have an opportunity to talk about some of the signings that already took place. I believe Justin Fields is a perfect fit for the New York Jets. I hate to say that, but I got to be honest. I think the Jets are perfect. He's teamed with his former teammate, Garrett Wilson. It's a fast track. They have younger talent there. This is the move I believe the Jets should have made a couple of years ago, is instead of opting for Aaron Rodgers that was old and never bought into the franchise as a whole. This team does have the ability, Scott, in my opinion, now to overexceed expectations. Not a lot of people are believing in this team. I actually think the Jets this season have a better shot to be a playoff contender than they have over the past couple of seasons with Aaron Rodgers at the helm.
I couldn't disagree more. Justin Fields. I know you love Justin Fields.
I love him.
Ben loves Justin Fields too. He sucks. He's awful, Joe. If Pittsburgh, one of the best organizations, with Mike Tomlin, one of the best head coaches right in the NFL, if they didn't want him and they worked with him, they saw him go 4-2 as a starter. Even they said, you know what, you stink. We don't need you anymore. So all of a sudden the Jets, you went from one of the best organizations to one of the worst, and you're going to side with one of the worst organizations' thoughts on a player? I'll buy into Pittsburgh and Tomlin. They need a quarterback. They had him in their backyard, and they said, nope, we don't want you anymore. Yep. He's going to be awful with the Jets. Over-under starts, before the boo birds come out. They'll be booing him during warm-ups when he's throwing footballs at the Meadowlands in 35-mile-an-hour winds. He can't throw indoors. He can't throw anywhere. Imagine trying to throw in the Meadowlands in November when you got 15, 20, 30-mile-an-hour of winds. Oh,
I knew I was going to poke the bear with that, so that's why I brought it up. I am going all in on the New York Jets, not at a Super Bowl or AFC contender, but if they give me plus money at make the playoffs, I'm going to take it and obviously jump on their win total because I do believe it's a good fit. But let's talk quickly about the Pittsburgh Steelers because I can't believe you mentioned winning organization, Mike Tomlin. They re-signed Mason Rudolph as a backup. To not have a plan moving forward, knowing that they had two quarterbacks in Russell Wilson and Fields last year, what is this organization doing? And are they now definitely regressing and going in the wrong direction?
I don't know what they're doing. I guess they're waiting for Aaron Rodgers, right? I really thought they were going to go get Sam Darnold. And when you look at how little...
Scott, what if he says no?
Right. And what are they going to do? Go into the draft?
I don't know. That is the biggest question. When we come back, we'll break down the Pittsburgh Steelers. Also break down a little Aaron Rodgers right here on Football Full Circle. Lisi and Wetzel talking NFL. Keep it where it is.
Out of 5 scientists agree it's smarter to be on SportsGrid, and we're pretty sure that one scientist is still a virgin. He just gives that 5. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. President Trump has signed into law legislation funding the government through the end of September, ending the threat of a partial government shutdown. The bill largely keeps government funding at levels set during Joe Biden's presidency, though with changes, it trims non-defense spending by about $13 billion from the previous year and increases defense spending by about $6 billion. The Senate cleared the legislation on Friday in a 54-46 party line vote, with 10 members of the Senate Democratic caucus helping the bill advance to passage, despite opposition from within their party. A delivery driver has won $50 million in a lawsuit after being seriously burned when a Starbucks drink spilled in his lap at a California drive-thru. A Los Angeles County jury ruled in favor of Michael Garcia, who underwent skin grafts and other procedures on his genitals after a venti-sized tea drink spilled just after he collected it on February 8, 2020. He has suffered permanent and life-changing disfigurement, according to his attorneys. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Progressive knows there are some surprisingly expensive things in life, like frames, because you found a classic 70s concert poster. But when you went to get it framed, you realized the frame will cost about 4 times the amount of the poster, which is actually absurd because no one will be looking at the frame, and if they are, then you severely overestimated how cool this poster is. But then you remember by switching your home and auto to Progressive, you could save hundreds and put it towards a classic 70s concert poster in an absurdly overpriced frame. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
There's something you should know and always remember. SportsGrid does not increase luck. We're your unfair advantage for the latest sports gaming information. If you're looking for luck, go find a horseshoe. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
Back on Football Full Circle, Lisi and Wetzel talking a little NFL, talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the absence now of Justin Fields that did take and sign the contract with the New York Jets. Scott, we talked about Aaron Rodgers potentially being paired with DK Metcalf and George Pickens now. What does that do to the team? If that's the plan A right now, okay, now you have a solidified quarterback, a veteran guy to potentially lead that team, but they're 25-1 to win the AFC Championship. If Aaron Rodgers, let's say, opts for the Minnesota Vikings or let's just say opts at retirement, what does that leave Pittsburgh? And does that really show that the team and the organization had a clear vision on how to attack the quarterback position for this upcoming season. You had a team that basically started 10-3 with Russell Wilson. They were flying high. They fell off a cliff over the last 5 games of the regular season. Wilson only averaged $1.73 per game through the air. You lose a first round playoff game. 25-1. Is that an Aaron Rodgers number baked in?
I would think so, right? And it's got to be him, right? If they were gonna bring back Russell, then he would have been signed already, right? I mean, I think the dominoes are okay. Aaron, it's your job if you want it. We're waiting on Aaron, and then if not, then it's going to be Russell. So Russell's waiting on Aaron. And this is typical Aaron Rodgers, right? He no doubt just loves all this drama. So I'm assuming the 25-1 is built in with Aaron, but I don't know how much would it really change if it was Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. It's funny, Joe. If you looked at Aaron Rodgers' numbers last year with the Jets, and you look at Russell Wilson's numbers 2 years ago with Denver, they're pretty similar. Touchdowns, interceptions. Rodgers threw for about 800 more yards than what Russell did 2 years ago. But you're basically just going right back to the well. It's a different player, but it's the same person. So maybe they think they're going to strike lightning in a bottle with him. He was halfway decent, just like Russell was 2 years ago. But ultimately, Rodgers lost all these games with the Jets when he failed to get the team into field goal range. He had 4 or 5 games literally where all you needed was a field goal to win the game or tie it at the end, and he failed. So it's kind of like, I don't think it really matters who's going to be quarterback for them. They dropped the ball. Like I said before the break, I really thought they were going to go after Sam Darnold. And when you look at what Sam Darnold got, and I'm not the biggest Sam Darnold fan, but listen, $33 million for 3 years, 2 years guaranteed. That's not bad for a quarterback. I mean, there's situational players now making more, obviously, than what Sam Darnold made. So how much did Sam Darnold lose last year in the last couple of games, and how much did Russell Wilson lose in the last couple of games last year?
Well,
right?
I think if you're the Steelers, right, exactly what you said. The last 2 games, that's what everybody remembers for Sam Darnold. You had the opportunity to win the NFC North. You get blown out by Detroit. You go on the road. You face an LA Rams team that basically you should step up and beat, and they get kicked in the chops, right? So for them, I think when you look, and Sam Darnold did not perform well in each game. So if you're Pittsburgh, you're going to say you're going to sign that guy for $45, $48 million, $40 million, whatever it may be, when you basically got 2 quarterbacks on the cheap last year that got you to a playoff appearance. I think the biggest thing is that the last quarterback to take you to a playoff appearance prior to last year was Mason Rudolph that they re-signed. You're supposed to be better than that. You're supposed to elevate this team and progress from that point, and they're just stuck in neutral. And you're right about Aaron Rodgers numbers wise, Scotty. But it was only after the Jets were out of contention for a playoff spot that he started putting up numbers, right? Puts up a dynamic game against Jacksonville, the 5 touchdown performance against our Miami Dolphins. I mean, the numbers seem a little bit skewed based off of that when he stepped up against better competition, teams like the Bills or teams like the Vikings with above average defenses. He wasn't all that consistent and all that great.
No, he was bad. He just couldn't get the job done at the beginning of the year. You're right. When all the pressure was off, when he wanted to think about, okay, next year, right around the corner, let me see if I can show the Jets a little something. They'll bring me back. So I don't know. Pittsburgh got left holding a bag, Joe. But it was a bag full of a bunch of rocks. I mean, what quarterback out there, really was so great? Are they looking to make a move? Maybe they're holding out for the Atlanta Falcons to get rid of Kirk Cousins, but they just gave him $10 million. He passed the deadline. I don't think they're going to move him now. Why would you do that, right? But maybe, money to NFL owners is next to nothing. But
it's
nothing
hard
out there.
No, I know. And do they
Carson
take
Wentz?
a shot at the human turnover machine, as I like to call him? I don't know. I don't know, Scott. I just can't believe that Tomlin
Joe Flacco? Want to bring Joe Flacco in?
I tell you what. I would take Flacco. I would take Flacco over anybody. I would rather go down with Joe Flacco, and this sounds crazy, than with Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Because at least I know Joe Flacco, for the most part, forget Russell Wilson for a second. With Joe Flacco, I know the guy's going to be bought in. He's going to give it 110%. He's an aging quarterback. If you protect him and the pocket stands up, he's got a shot to get the football to DK Metcalf and obviously Pickens. With Aaron Rodgers, it's all about Aaron. And you could see that right now, to your point. The fact that he's holding off multiple organizations because he's not sure, either you're in or you're out. You want to play or you don't. You know that basically a week after the season ends, right? If you're still not sure, you know what? Move on and let somebody else take the spot. But for Pittsburgh to just wait on this guy and not be proactive, I just don't understand. Like I'm not waiting on Aaron Rodgers. I'm in an organization that really needs to take the next step. And I can't let a 40-year-old quarterback keep me hostage for the next 4 weeks, Scotty.
Yeah. Out of all the quarterbacks, Joe, I think I would take Flacco too. If you wanted to win this year, and that's the question now with Pittsburgh, right? Maybe, I know Tomlin's got this 20-year history, whatever it is, 18, 20 years of a winning record, right? But sometimes you got to bottom out to go get that new quarterback. And you're in a division where Lamar's going to be there for a number of years. Obviously, Joey B's going to be at Cincinnati for a number of years. Browns are going to probably draft a quarterback. They're going to have their quarterback for a number of years. Maybe Pittsburgh just says, let's just bottom out this season.
We'll see. When we come back, we'll talk about some title odds in the NFC right here on Football Full Circle. Coming right back.
There's smart and there's not smart. Not smart is hope as a strategy. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Keep it here and win. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1967, the NFL Draft. Michigan State defensive end Bubba Smith is the first pick by Baltimore. Although sacks weren't an official stat until 1982, it's believed Smith registered 43 bags of the quarterback in his first 69 games. After the gridiron, Smith became famous in beer commercials.
It's a lot easier hitting a quarterback than a little white ball.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
University of Mississippi researchers suggest that soon you'll find robotic chefs in the kitchen of your favorite bistro. Not the singularity. Kitchen robots programmed with the wisdom of Michelin star chefs. Gentle, tireless assistants helping humans cook better.
This duck is so raw, any EMT could still save it.
Robots working alongside humans helps chefs focus on important things.
An excellent sauce if you like to inhale sweat socks.
The plan? Robot chefs reduce costs, human chefs paid more, are happier, and cook food that tastes great.
Your plan B, combustible, not thick enough, but you're getting better.
Follow me at Capalbo on X and stay tuned to The Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Carver and Lisi.
I've watched Miss State play. They can't get into this type of game. They're not built like this. At some point, we're going to sell it high, and we'll have a shot to buy it back cheaper.
Sell.
We're just selling. 500 and 163. 500 and 163. So.
It's Carver and Lisi with Mike Carver and Joe Lisi. Weekdays 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Wherever you go, there you are. Download the SportsGrid mobile app and we'll be right there with you. So now you can get the winning edge anywhere. Even while the wife's talking to you. If you've got an earbud. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, continuing the conversation, talking title odds. We touched on the AFC and one team in particular, and the Pittsburgh Steelers will flip over to the NFC, Scotty. Obviously, Philadelphia, the front runner to win the NFC Championship at 3-1, followed by Detroit at plus 460, San Francisco at plus 750, and then last year's Cinderella, the Washington Commanders, come in at a 9-1 price. They do sign a couple of offseason additions, right? They just signed Tunsil to protect Jaden Daniels. Thoughts about Washington big picture this year? Can they continue the momentum or slight regression to what we saw with C.J. Stroud in Houston this past season?
Yeah, I mean, that's the natural thought, right? That there will be a little regression. They won, their last 5 games, Joe, last year on the last play of the game. That's a lot of breaks going your way. Stuff like that in the NFL, that doesn't happen back-to-back years. I mean, if you just go by history, there's a long history of teams coming back to the pack. Not being awful, obviously, but, kind of like Houston, where no one took them too seriously entering the postseason. I figure Washington probably will make the playoffs. You go from a last-place schedule also, don't forget, to a second-place schedule. So now you're playing all those second-place teams, whereas last year you were playing all the last-place teams from the year before. So that makes your schedule a little bit more difficult. So I'm thinking, if they're over/under, I'm guessing it's going to be around 9.5. I might go over 10-7. But I wouldn't go over, I don't think they're going to be 11-6 or even better than that. I think there will be some regression on that with them.
What about Daniels as a whole? I think he has the ability to elevate and be an MVP candidate, especially, knowing that it's year number 2 in Cliff Kingsbury's offense, knowing that, you have playmakers, the emergence and how dynamic Terry McLaurin was at the end of the regular season. If they get an above-average rushing attack, something that was a little bit inconsistent towards the end of the regular season. I like Brian Robinson, but he's not an elite running back. If they maybe get somebody in the draft and the rushing attack does take over, I mean, they have the ability to be special, and Daniels can maybe build on last year's success.
Yeah, I really like to have gotten a true number 1. I don't think McLaurin's a true number 1. I think they got a bunch of number 2s. I think Debo's a number 2 as well, as far as big-time wide receiver goes. But, it's a pretty good core. But is there a Ty Hill? Is there a Jamar Chase? Is there, a Justin Jefferson on that team? I really don't think so. So that's where they can get some help as well. But I think the NFC is going to come back too, though, Joe, this year. So it's going to open up a little bit more. Who knows what you're going to get out of J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota this year, right? Detroit's lost all their coordinators, so they got to kind of regroup there a little bit. We don't know what San Francisco is doing. No team really in the West, unless you're buying into the L.A. Rams, which I'm not. The South is still mediocre. Maybe you want to give credit to Tampa Bay, but the NFC is there, the top 2, 3, 4 spots in the NFC. Green Bay should be a little bit better. But the top 2, 3 spots in the NFC is there for the taking for Washington.
I agree with you. And again, is it worthy of a 9-1 price? Probably not. I would say I would want double digits, anywhere 11 to 14 in that area, but you're not going to get that now unless they start off slow. 0-2, right. 2-4 to start, and maybe, in terms of that. I will say, when I look at outside of Washington, you look at the value on Green Bay at 10-1, right? Jordan Love banged up much of the regular season last year, never lived up to the hype that he had in terms of year number 1. But 10-1, Scott, isn't a bad number for them. And then Tampa Bay, all they do is win, baby. The fact, we're talking about a team that has won 4 straight division titles and has Baker and has Evans. And, oh, by the way, Chris Godwin's now re-signed and coming back. And they have an above-average rushing attack now, one of the best with Bucky Irvin. 16-1 on Baker Mayfield isn't a bad number off season.
Yeah, those wide receivers getting a little long in the tooth, though. I will say that. But they are at least back. Well,
long in the tooth, Scott. That's an old school.
70s.
Hey, long in the tooth. God.
So, and it's still Baker Mayfield, right? Ultimately, he is what he is. He's good enough to get you the first Baker Mayfield? Not buying into Baker. No. He'll get you. He'll probably win that division again. You're right, but is he really? It really shows the respect they have for the Philadelphia Eagles. Those numbers.
It is, and we'll get into this conversation coming back. Quarterback talk on the horizon. Football full circle coming right back. Lisi and Wetzel, keep it where it is.
The winning edge. You've got it. But not everybody has it, because not everybody listens to us. But we're working on that. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash, powered by The Score. The NCAA tournament field has been announced. Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Houston are the 1 seeds. The tournament will begin with the first 4 tomorrow night. 2 games being played in Dayton, St. Francis of Pennsylvania against Alabama State, and North Carolina against San Diego State. NBA basketball, taking a look at the schedule for tonight. Busy night across the league. Heat are in New York to play the Knicks. The Rockets will host the Sixers. Pacers at the Timberwolves. The Pelicans hosting the Pistons. Bulls at the Jazz. Nuggets at the Warriors. Suns at home against the Raptors. Grizzlies and Kings will play in Sacramento. The Trailblazers host the Wizards. And the Lakers at home against the Spurs. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
Have you heard? Everyone's favorite beverage is now at Burger King. Coke Zero Sugar. Real Coca-Cola taste with zero sugar. Here to quench your thirst at breakfast, lunch, or dinner, Coke Zero is the perfect pairing for flame-grilled favorites any time of day. Feeling something flame-grilled? Nothing goes better with Coke Zero Sugar than the new Steakhouse Bacon Whopper, featuring Swiss cheese, iconic A1 sauce, crispy onions, and peppercorn aioli, available now for a limited time. Or start your morning right by fueling up with a piping hot breakfast sandwich, like a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant. Its sizzling sausage, fluffy egg, and melted American cheese on a toasted croissant makes it a delicious breakfast. It pairs perfectly with a Coke Zero Sugar, and don't forget the crispy hash browns. The ultimate sparkling beverage that will have you feeling like royalty. Have it your way, because Coke Zero makes every meal better, with the real Coke taste you love, but with zero sugar. Available at participating U.S. Burger King restaurants. This report is sponsored by Burger King.
You're listening to SportsGrid,
spreading the winning edge far and wide.
Terrestrial, internet, TV, satellite, and don't forget our mobile app.
Face it.
The winning edge is everywhere.
Somewhere there's a squirrel frustrated he can't get a phone.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. Scott and I left off talking about Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay, and Scott said, it's Baker Mayfield. So you piqued my curiosity, Scott. Forget Jalen Hurts for a second in Philadelphia. They're deserving, in my opinion, of obviously the 3-1 price and to be the best team and the team to beat in terms of Super Bowl odds. But if you're going to bash Baker Mayfield, right, can't we say the same for Jared Goff? I mean, the journeyman that everybody sold until he went to Detroit, resurrected his career with Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson. I mean, Baker Mayfield has won football games, has won playoff games, has more quality playoff wins, you can argue, than Kirk Cousins over the past 6 or 7 seasons. So if we're going to bash Baker Mayfield, we have to take a look at Detroit and some of the other teams, like obviously Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, that haven't ever gotten it done in a big spot.
Yeah, I mean, there is a level of mediocrity, right? And he probably is at the top of that level. He's probably better than all those quarterbacks that you mentioned. Goff, you could have the debate with, but, put the Baker on Detroit, and he'd probably have the similar success. I'll grant you that. But is he going to win a Super Bowl? I don't. Is Dak Prescott going to win a Super Bowl? Is Kirk Cousins ever going to win a Super Bowl? I mean, the answer has been no. You're right, but at least he's won. But 2 years ago, he's in a spot to win the game against Detroit. With the football 2 minutes left, and he can't get the job done. So I think that's his limit. You're going to live in purgatory. It's as simple as that. Right. I think that's why Seattle got rid of Geno Smith. Now, Geno's not quite at that level, but I think they realize we're just going to live in purgatory. We're going to be 9-7 or 10-7. 9-8, we'll make the first round of the playoffs and we'll lose. So we got to do something different here.
But that's the question when you break down great and elite quarterbacks to just good. And we could say that about Lamar Jackson as well. Until Lamar goes to the Super Bowl, he's a great regular season quarterback, and he's, maybe he could get you one playoff win. When the chips are in the middle of the table, would you want Pat Mahomes? Would you want Jalen Hurts? Would you want somebody else to lead your offense? And you could throw Josh Allen in there as well. As great as he played throughout the regular season, they still didn't win an AFC championship. And that's how you really gauge elite quarterbacks. It's by the number of AFC and NFC championships and it's by the number of Super Bowl appearances and championships that you bring home. And until you do that, you're just a very good quarterback. And we can make that argument about everybody in the NFC. You can make that about Brock Purdy. Even though in terms of his young career, he's played in a Super Bowl, he hasn't won one, right? And was it more the team success or Brock Purdy just managing the bus throughout the playoffs? I mean, we can make that argument. Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I don't know if it's obviously this year because of how dominant the Philadelphia defense is, but I think over the next 3 to 5 seasons, Jaden Daniels has that type of upside. Let me ask you this, though. L.A., Matt Stafford, they bring him back. He's won a Super Bowl. He's old. He's not getting any younger. From what you saw last year, does L.A. have an opportunity to be a dark horse contender in the NFC?
Dark horse, yeah, but I think a whole lot of people are putting too much emphasis on that game they had against Philadelphia in the postseason, where they had the ball, at first down inside the 20-yard line with a chance to win the game, final moments. They didn't get the job done. But I think people are saying, all right, they played them the toughest out of all the teams, Green Bay or the Kansas City Chiefs. They were the team, so they're that close. I don't think they're really that close. I really don't. And they're in a division that's could be awful, depending on what San Francisco does. So I don't doubt they get into the playoffs. I would have brought them back too, Joe. I didn't understand the Rams telling Stafford that go shop yourself around. That was kind of weird. Sense. It's not like he was the last year of his contract. Why would you do that? I mean, you knew there were going to be teams that were looking for quarterbacks that would show some interest in him. I'm not sure what that was all about, but I don't think they're at a Super Bowl level at this point. No.
10-1 though. Do you believe they're worthy to be ahead of Green Bay and Tampa Bay for that matter with Stafford based off last year?
Green Bay, yes, because Green Bay more than likely is going to finish as a wild card team behind Detroit. Tampa Bay figures to be a division winner. Rams, I think, figure to be a division winner. So I can see them being ahead of Green Bay, even though Green Bay might be the better team. But at 10-1, yeah, listen, chances are they're going to be pretty good to make the playoffs. So, and same thing with Tampa Bay. You can start hedging if you want. You grab all these teams now at 10-1, 12-1, 15-1. Again, this is to win the NFC, right? Not the Super Bowl. So you only got to win a couple of games before you can really start to hedge a little bit. So I would take a flyer on both those teams at over 10-1 or 10-1 or higher.
I'll tell you one team I'm not buying into, and I know they got their coach in terms of Ben Johnson, but 17-1 for the Chicago Bears, I'm just not buying it. I'm not buying into Caleb Williams' big picture. I know they shored up the offensive line in terms of what they were able to do in the free agent market, Tooney and all those signings. But to me, Scott, they have to then beat Detroit, Green Bay, and Minnesota at least 4 games for them to get to the playoffs. I just don't think they could do it. I think all of those teams are stronger. And you can make the argument, well, J.J. McCarthy hasn't taken a snap. I would still take a shot that Justin Jefferson and that team could will themselves to more victories than the Chicago Bears. And Ben Johnson better be careful because he's called out a number of teams, including Green Bay. Teams don't forget that. Ben Johnson hasn't coached a game in the NFL as a head coach. It's a much different animal when you're taking on full responsibility as opposed to just calling plays from an offensive perspective. And I actually think Matt LaFleur is a much better head coach than critics give him credit for. I'm sorry. I just don't see Chicago 17-1. I understand the number, but I'm selling it this year.
Yeah, I mean, again, you got to fast forward to the postseason. Are they going to win the division? Not with Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit. They're probably not. No matter how good Chicago is better this upcoming season, I don't think they're good enough to win that division. So now they're going to be playing on the road. They're going to have to get to the Super Bowl, winning, 3 road games. That's really tough to do. And those road games could be at Philadelphia. They could be at Detroit. They could be, against Washington. I mean, that's... When you put it into perspective like that, it's like, no, I'm not buying it either. Yeah, I always thought he was a little, overrated, Joe. I mean, he was with our Dolphins. He didn't do anything. He wasn't this genius when it was with the Miami Dolphins. I mean, he's had one basically regime, and give all those guys credit for turning Detroit around. I mean, that franchise was deader than dead. But it's only been one situation where he went from bottom to top. That's it. I mean, a lot of guys get fortunate luck like that. We've seen college coaches, get better jobs because of one recruiting class. They were able to recruit one quarterback who was great. Before I buy into a guy, let me see him turn things around at a couple of different programs. Then I'll buy into the Ben Johnson stuff.
I agree with you. Now, you know what number is intriguing to me is Arizona at 20-1. And the reason why I say that is they have Trey McBride. They have those playmakers. Marvin Harrison Jr., right? Gannon did a good job, not a great job, not a bad job. He was right in the middle. There were games that they should have won, like Carolina. They couldn't pick up that victory on the road. But I feel like he's building a foundation here. 20-1 isn't a bad number when we talk about these dark horses to potentially surprise. And you're not starting with a rookie. This is a third-year head coach with a veteran quarterback and playmakers at every level. This team can compete in the West.
Yeah, it's still Kyler Murray.
I know.
Stink.
I
lost
know,
so
but
much
it's worth
money on
the
that
price,
dude.
Scotty. But it's worth the price, isn't it?
You want a flyer? I'll give you a goofy flyer. You want a goofy flyer? I'll take the Carolina Panthers.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Watching him play the last 4 or 5 weeks, Joe, I don't know how he did it because, man, he was just god-awful last year and then the first part of last season. He actually turned that team around. He was a pretty good quarterback last 4 or 5 games.
He understood Dave Canales' system. We'll come back. We'll talk a little Carolina. Some other teams coming up next.
Saying every SportsGrid listener is a legend, but you might start thinking about who's going to play you in the movie.
Just saying.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. President Trump has signed into law legislation funding the government through the end of September, ending the threat of a partial government shutdown. The bill largely keeps government funding at levels set during Joe Biden's presidency, though with changes, it trims non-defense spending by about $13 billion from the previous year and increases defense spending by about $6 billion. The Senate cleared the legislation on Friday in a 54-46 party line vote, with 10 members of the Senate Democratic caucus helping the bill advance to passage despite opposition from within their party. A delivery driver has won $50 million in a lawsuit after being seriously burned when a Starbucks drink spilled in his lap at a California drive-thru. A Los Angeles County jury ruled in favor of Michael Garcia, who underwent skin grafts and other procedures on his genitals after a venti-sized tea drink spilled just after he collected it on February 8, 2020. He has suffered permanent and life-changing disfigurement, according to his attorneys. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Progressive knows owning a home can be hard, but not always. Like when you're relaxing on your patio, enjoying a nice, quiet evening. So quiet. Except for the sound of the neighbor's party. Which you said you'd go to if you weren't busy. And your quiet night on the patio, that's not exactly busy, is it? Maybe you should just stay inside. At least Progressive's Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance is the easiest part of owning a home. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Ask any player and they'll tell you any advantage is important.
That's where we come in.
SportsGrid delivers gaming strategies and analysis 7 days a week.
The winning edge.
It's your advantage to more winning
more often.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
All right, back on Football Full Circle. We left off talking about the Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young. Price to win the NFC Championship, Scotty, 60-1. And I agree with you. You know, Bryce Young's emergence down the stretch where he went toe-to-toe with teams like the Kansas City Chiefs and the defending Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with both of those teams. They both covered both of those matchups as I believe a 10.5 and a 13.5-point underdog against both the Chiefs and Eagles. Game went right down to the final possession. They couldn't pull it out. But the sky's the limit for Bryce Young. I mean, the ability to step out of the lineup, the ability to then see what he was doing wrong, what he was doing right, get more acclimated and break down some game film, sit down with the offensive staff, really proved to be a testament to what and a benefit to him in terms of the numbers that he put up. He looked like a completely different quarterback, and it's like the game started to slow down from him. And I agree with you. Year number 3 now, there's no doubt that Bryce Young can potentially lead this team in the NFC South to an 8 or a 9 win season and make a wild card.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Even the losses that you pointed out, they were competitive. They got blown out in 1 or 2 games, but they were clearly not the same team they were at the beginning of the year, and him in particular. I don't know what happened, Joe. You mentioned some things there. What all of a sudden turns the light bulb on? I don't know. Right. But, he was a pretty good quarterback. So you look for different things, right? When you look for flyers. One, is the team got to be a little bit better, and clearly they showed they were better, this past season at the end of the year. So you figure that's going to continue. They get a last place schedule, kind of like what Washington had last year and Houston had the year before that. So now you got a couple of easier games that you may be better, but hopefully the other teams aren't. So you can win those, and they're in a division that's let's face it, Tampa Bay's pretty good. I think we do underappreciate how good the Bucks are, but still they're in a division where they're going to be competitive against every game. Whether it's home or away, Atlanta, New Orleans, or Tampa Bay, they're not going to go into those games saying, all right, this is an automatic loss. They can win all those games. Then you throw on the last place schedule. So, realistically, could they win the NFC? Probably not. But if you want a little flyer, you want to have a Washington Redskin or Commanders team, from last year for this upcoming season, to me, I think they would be the best choice.
Yeah, I agree with you. For the numbers, 60-1, you're not going to get a better shot at a team with a veteran quarterback, second-year head coach. The main questions are already answered. What can you pick up in terms of the upcoming draft to get plug-and-play players to potentially get you over your season win total and challenge for a wild card? Because there's no doubt, right? If you're Carolina, just make the playoffs, right? If you could do that, that's huge for the organization to get back on the winning track, to develop Bryce Young to potentially an all-pro level, and then now to get the fan base re-involved and re-engaged with the organization. That winning changes everything. So I agree with you. They have Chuba Hubbard. They have Thielen there, the veteran wide receiver. Leggett was a little bit hot and cold, cost them the victory against Philadelphia with the drop in the end zone. But if he could develop as well, now you have a core group of talent that you could say, okay, we can compete with any team within the division. Now we have to find players that can put us over the top, whether that be free agency, whether that be the draft, and we'll see what they do. I mean, I agree with you. I would buy into Arizona as that dark horse because of the veteran team and because of Gannon, but I would take a shot on Carolina as well for 60-1. If Bryce Young could start the season the way he ended, now if you start 5-2 or let's say 6-4, that number is not going to be there anymore.
Oh, no, that'll be gone. That'll be completely gone. Again, especially in that division where they figure at 6-4, you're probably going to be batting for first place versus, batting for a wild card spot. So I would even say, even if they didn't make the wild card, Joe, just show progress with Bryce Young. He was so bad 2 years ago. Coaches getting fired, GMs getting fired that drafted him, right? I mean, to be where we are right now a year later is like, wow. And to have him even go 9-8, 8-9, heck, even 7-10, just continue to say, okay, he's our quarterback. We're not going to have to go into next year's draft and draft a quarterback. We have the guy. That to me would be progress enough, and everything else is gravy with them.
I'll tell you this right now. 2 teams I'm going to sell on top of Chicago just because I don't believe in them. And I know a lot of people, we do a number of these shows all the time, right? We talk to a lot of smart people and people that are willing to pull the trigger. You know that people are looking at the bounce back for the Dallas Cowboys and are looking at Atlanta because of the core of young talent that they have. And at these prices for Atlanta at 24-1 to win the NFC and Dallas at 26-1, I'm telling you this right now, Scotty, I'm selling them because I think after the first month or two of the regular season, those numbers will be much higher. You can get better odds. I'm sold on Dallas, and I'm not believing on Raheem Morris. I think he's a terrible head coach. He's a better coordinator than he is a head coach. I just think it's an organization in complete disarray.
Yeah, that Falcon team will start there. It's just a weird team. I mean, they've had so many expectations the last 2-3 years with the people they brought in and who they drafted and this and that. And it just, for whatever reason, their offense just hasn't clicked. It's amazing. Root for Raheem. He's a Hofstra guy. He was there when I was doing play-by-play many moons ago. So, and for all intents and purposes, right, he got the job over Bill Belichick. So think about that for a second, the pressure he's under. But I agree. Just, and I like Penix Jr. I do like him. I did like him in college. Dallas, kind of the same thing, but I'm rooting for Dallas too. Like, I'm rooting for Raheem. But, I want to see Schottenheimer do well. I want to see Dallas do well.
Who are you?
Just because he's got, he's been criticized so much. The poor guy never hurt a soul, and everyone making him out to be a boob. I mean, he's been a lifelong NFL guy. Well, why?
Because of his dad, Marty Schottenheimer. He was born on third base, Scotty. He was born on third base.
Listen, but at least he's paid his dues. He's been in he's not 25. He's not Zach Taylor. I mean, he's been in the NFL his entire life. Did he do anything worse than what the previous guy did? The Boise State quarterback, Kellen Moore? No, neither one could win. So
Scotty's got the GoFundMe page for Dallas Cowboys. We'll come back and wrap it up right here on Football Full Circle.
Luck is winning the lottery. Strategy is settling your divorce before cashing in the ticket.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. SportsGrid TV and radio networks are the premier streaming video and audio channels dedicated to serving the sports wagering audience. Found on major smart TV platforms and streaming on SportsGrid Radio and Sirius XM Channel 159. SportsGrid's real-time data, expert commentary, and entertaining analysis transform viewers into informed sports enthusiasts. Our weekday radio lineup begins with the early line at 8 a.m. Eastern with Ben Stevens and Donnie Rightside. Donnie joins Kevin Walsh on Moneyline at 11 a.m. Eastern, followed by Football Full Circle at noon Eastern. Kaplan and crew join the party at 1 p.m. Eastern, and Pharrell Coast to Coast keeps things rolling from 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Get in the mix with Kevin Walsh and Game Time Decisions at 6 p.m. Eastern. Evenings simmer with Carver and Lisi, then boils over with Gabe Moritzi on Sports Rage Late Night at 10 p.m. Eastern. To find out where to find SportsGrid that's best for you, go to sportsgrid.com. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7.
Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
You're listening to Football Full Circle with Joe Lisi and Scott Wetzel.
There you go. It always fast for Scotty and I when we work and talk off-season NFL and college football. I just read this report, Scotty. Jackson Dart potentially is in play for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the upcoming draft. We'll see how it plays out over the next month. Well, we'll see. Let's see. let's see. They screwed up the Kenny Pickett situation a couple of years ago. So, for them to screw that up and be in complete purgatory right now, entering 25, you can't be happy for the Pittsburgh Steelers at the quarterback position. But I gave you in the break, I gave you an option. We're going to go through some passing props. Prop markets are up for multiple teams, Scott, and players. So I'll give you a prop market for the passing, okay? To throw for 30-plus touchdown passes this year, okay? Lamar Jackson, the front runner at even money at plus 100. Mahomes at plus 120. It's got Xavier Worthy with 2 big play touchdowns in the Super Bowl loss. Josh Allen now with the emergence of potentially Shakir and Josh Palmer in that offense, plus 135. Sam Darnold, as that's what the New York fans used to call him, Darno, when he used to start for the New York Jets, plus 490. And Jalen Hurts at 5-1. Anybody tickle your fancy out of that group?
Well, I go Hurts at 5-1, right? I mean, I know
like
they love
too.
him, and who knows, what they do with the push tush if they really change that rule. Maybe a couple of short little 1-yard touchdown passes for him. He's got the weapons clearly, right? I mean, the problem is his defense is so good that more times than not he doesn't have to put 30 points on the board. But still, it hurts at 5-1. Just if for no other reason, it's 5-1 is pretty darn good. Josh Allen, I'd probably go Josh Allen. I think he's going to be in some offensive wars. I think Kansas City's going to come out with a vengeance too. I would go Mahomes. This is kind of not that they had a lousy year last year, but this will be a big bounce back year for him. Not relying on the defense so much. Offenses or the teams that they're playing are going to be putting some points on the board. Mahomes at 30-1, or at 30 if at even money, whatever it is, definitely
plus 130. It's plus 130, so it's not a bad number. All right, so let's go to the yardage. Hurts 3,200.5. Josh Allen 3,775.5. Lamar Jackson 3,450.5. Which one are you taking? I'll give you Mahomes too, since Mahomes 4,000.5. Which one?
Give me Mahomes at 4,000, and I'll take Hurts too. He's not getting old. Clearly he's not getting old. But we've seen quarterbacks, Joe, run less and less as they get older and older. And now he's won a Super Bowl, so he doesn't have that burning desire of just I'm going to do whatever it takes. Right? I'm just going to throw the ball out of bounds. So I think he throws a little bit more down the field versus running. And like I said, I do believe Mahomes and company are going to have a big bounce back year throwing the ball.
All right. Touchdown passes for the big three. Josh Allen, 27.5. Lamar Jackson, 28.5. Pat Mahomes, 27.5, Scotty. Seems like easy money. Seems like he's a slim pickings. Come on.
That is amazing. His numbers have come way down, right? 27.5 in 17 games. That's not even it's basically a touchdown and a half a game. Used to get that, 27 touchdowns in the first week of the season, the first month of the season. I'll go under Lamar. I think Lamar has peaked. That's it. Done with Lamar. No more. I don't care. All the announcers in the world can tell us how great he is in the regular season. The guy never gets it done in the postseason. So I'm done with Lamar. I'll go under him.
Sell. He's selling. How about this? Because you brought up Darnold. What do you think Sam Darnold's touchdown prop is this year?
25?
20.5, Scotty.
Oof. Not even that much. Wow.
Now he's got JSN, and nobody else. No DK.
That's a touchdown a game, though, Joe, right? I mean, 17 games. It's basically a touchdown a game.
And you're getting, look at this, Scotty. Here's a tickler I'm giving you. Under, right? Minus with the juice, minus 122. You want to take to the over? Only minus 108. Oh, look at that.
He's getting 21. He'll be blown out every game. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see you tomorrow on Football Full Circle. For Danny Ohlers, Scott Wetzel, I'm Lisi. Have a great day, everyone.
You found the advantage for gaming, odds, and more. But we call it the winning edge for short. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.